Before Sherlock Holmes became the world's greatest detective, he was a reckless 19-year-old accused of murder. Sherlock Holmes has always been presented as the ultimate genius, calm, calculating, and perpetually 10 steps ahead. For over a century, we've admired the perfectly polished detective who solves impossible mysteries by observing the smallest details. But the new series Young Sherlock 2026 poses a fascinating question. What if Sherlock Holmes wasn't always that perfect? What if, before the legendary detective of Baker Street, there was a reckless 19-year-old still trying to understand his own mind? This series transports us to that formative stage of Sherlock's life. Gone is the composed consulting detective. In his place stands a young man who is arrogant, impulsive, and sometimes dangerously reckless. His intelligence is extraordinary, but it's also chaotic, uncontrolled, and prone to getting him into trouble. The show builds around a compelling idea. Genius doesn't emerge fully formed. It develops through mistakes, failures, and difficult experiences. Young Sherlock is less a traditional mystery series and more the origin story of a legendary mind. The story unfolds at Oxford University, where Sherlock Holmes, hero Fiennes Tiffin, studies while constantly clashing with authority. He's brilliant, undoubtedly, but he fits poorly into the structured academic world around him. His sharp observations and unusual behaviour make him stand out, though often provoking frustration rather than admiration. Everything changes when a shocking murder occurs within the university, and Sherlock himself becomes the primary suspect. Suddenly forced into a dangerous game, Sherlock realises that if he cannot prove his innocence, his future may end before it truly begins. The only path forward is to solve the mystery himself. As he begins investigating, the series introduces a fascinating visual concept, an early version of Sherlock's famous Mind Palace. Unlike the organised mental library we see in later adaptations, this version is messy and chaotic. Memories rewind unpredictably, details flash and fade. Sherlock struggles desperately to organise the flood of information flooding his mind. It's a brilliant representation of a genius still learning to control itself. Perhaps the most intriguing element of the show is the relationship between Sherlock and a young James Moriarty. Rather than introducing Moriarty as the criminal mastermind we know, the series takes a more interesting approach. It presents them as friends first, a dynamic that feels surprisingly similar to what we recently saw in the animated film Transformers 1. Two brilliant minds starting as allies before destiny pushes them onto opposite paths. Moriarty, Donald Finn, emerges as another brilliant outsider who quickly recognises a kindred spirit in Sherlock. The two share an intellectual curiosity that no one around them seems to understand. Their conversations crackle with sharp wit, clever observations, and moments of genuine playfulness. For a brief time, we watch two extraordinary minds discovering the world together. But the series plants subtle seeds of future conflict. Sherlock's intelligence develops alongside a growing moral compass. He wants to uncover truth and understand the world for its own sake. Moriarty, meanwhile, reveals ambition that edges towards something darker. The difference between them seems small at first, hardly noticeable. But slowly, inevitably, it grows. Watching this subtle shift adds a layer of tension that lingers throughout the story because the audience already knows what these two characters will eventually become. As Sherlock continues investigating, the murder case expands far beyond a single crime. Hidden conspiracies emerge. Secret societies reveal themselves. Dangerous political connections surface, pulling Sherlock through secret passages, cryptic clues, and high-risk situations that push him far beyond Oxford's safe walls. Each challenge forces Sherlock to think more carefully and refine his abilities. With every mistake and every discovery, the reckless young man begins taking his first steps toward becoming the detective we know. The journey is messy, sometimes painful, but unmistakably transformative. The series moves at a fast pace, packed with stylish visuals, dramatic action sequences, and a modern soundtrack that keeps the energy high. But this approach also brings a small trade-off. Sometimes the show feels more focused on spectacle than the slow, careful deductions that classic Sherlock Holmes stories are known for. For viewers who prefer slow, logical mysteries, this approach may feel jarring. But for audiences who enjoy cinematic storytelling and character-driven drama, the show offers something genuinely fresh, an interpretation that prioritizes emotional truth over fidelity to tradition. As the story approaches its climax, the murder investigation and the friendship with M